This week on the Computer Chronicles, how to fix your PC. We'll take a look at the hardware side first and show you how to solve typical problems with the internal components of your computer. Then we'll take a look at the most common software problems, including Windows crashes and application malfunctions. There are lots of software programs that can help you diagnose a computer problem. We'll review the best ones and web sources for dealing with PC problems. We'll show you some good sites that can help you do it yourself. Plus, my pick of the week, the simplest way yet to get up and running with your own internet-based business. It's all coming up next on the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.
Hi, and welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet. Well, here's the scenario. In fact, it happened to me just a few days ago. You're working on something really important, and the darn computer dies. It crashes. It starts doing weird things. What do? Call tech support? Run down to your local computer store, or just get out a screwdriver and see what you can do yourself. The difficulty is, who knows what is causing the crash? Is it a hardware problem? Is it a software issue? We're going to start out by looking at some typical hardware problems, and our tech guide here is Ron White, senior editor of PC Computing Magazine, and also author of this book, How Computers Work. But right now we're talking about why they don't work, I guess, Ron.
That's the important thing.
And I see you've gathered a bunch of goodies here to start to deal with it. What kinds of tools should I get out first?
You don't need much, but there are a few things you should always have on hand, because these always happen at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
When the
Certainly the screwdriver.
Screwdriver, bits
open the case, et cetera, et cetera.
Have a flashlight, because those things are dark inside.
Poking around inside the box somewhere.
And you need both hands, so here's the ultimate geek
flashlight. So somebody really uses those things.
Yes, I do all the time.
Both hands free.
It keeps both hands free, and you can aim the light at the same time.
All right, let me ask you one simple question, see if this is stupid. My instinct is, if I have a problem, turn everything off and just turn it on again, and sometimes it seems to work.
Actually, Stuart, that's the smartest thing to do, and you don't know why. Don't ask me why it works. If it works, it works. That's the main thing, and that'll take care of 50% of your problems. It's some complex clash of bits in there.
Something crashed, and you start all over again, everybody's happy.
Don't know why, but if it works, it works.
All right, now, there's a lot of stuff in the computer. You've plugged cards and you've plugged cables in. Should you start to look at those connection points as a first thing?
I will guarantee you that 90% of your problems can be cured by bad connections.
All right, so let's take a look here. For instance, we got this one opened up. We got all kinds of cables coming out here. Maybe they're loose.
Here's the obvious. This one actually is a little bit loose.
Yeah.
And these things, a dog trips over them, you get back there, you move them, and check all these connections. I'm embarrassed by how many times this has turned out to be the problem.
It's just a loose cable.
Yeah, and I've spent maybe an hour trying to do other things to find out that's what it is.
Now, what about all the cards and boards that are inside? I mean, those things could be loose too, right?
Yeah, your computer heats up and cools off, and you get expansion, contraction. Those things can get out of the seats.
So what do you just pull the cards out?
Pull the cards out. Put them back
Shove them back in, make sure those connections are good.
If that doesn't work, it may be that you've got a little corrosion on some of the connections. That's why take a card like this, take some cleaner that's made for use with electrical products.
So you can buy that stuff at like a Radio Shack or something?
Yeah, simple.
And clean those terminals off so the contacts are good.
Right. It's a small shot, but it might be what the problem is.
So go for all the things that are connected that maybe aren't connected quite properly.
90% of your problems will be solved.
Ron, you mentioned heat and cold and the changes in temperature. Is it possible for a computer to overheat and then certain things wouldn't work because of that?
Especially if you're working in a very dusty environment. The fans there that are supposed to cool it off.
So it could clog the airflow?
They draw in dust. The dust accumulates like a blanket over microchips, and they get too hot.
What do you do then?
Here's a little thing called dust busters, just canned air.
So just sort of clean the thing out.
Blow out your power supply, too, because that can get too hot. And that'll take care of a lot of problems in some cases.
All right, Ron, suppose it's clear there's just one thing that isn't working. I can't use my modem, for example. I mean, odds are I should just play with the modem card then?
Just work with the modem card. Make sure that everything's connected. You've got a lot of connections.
So maybe the contact issue again?
Contact issue. If you can, have a spare around. If you've got an old modem that you haven't used for years,
try that.
Put it back in. It might do the job in an emergency.
All right, now, some people are not aware sometimes that there is a battery, a CMOS battery inside. Then sooner or later, like any battery, that's going to die And then your computer's not going to know what's going on, right?
Right. The computer won't know what kind of hard drive it has, won't know what's there. Oh.
Now, is that hard to change?
It's not usually hard to change.
Can you show us like where we'd find it? I know it's different in every computer.
It's different in every computer. Here's one in here that's a little round
But look
disc.
for a little silver disc kind of thing, like an overgrown watch battery.
Right. Wouldn't hurt to have a spare around, because if you got to get that report out the next day, it'll be
not going to work if that thing is dead. Huh? Now, how long will those things normally last? I mean, when should I start to think? 3 years down the line?
Oh,
or something?
3 years. I've never actually had to replace one, although I've got a machine. I've got a machine now that's acting kind of funny, and I've just about narrowed it down to the battery.
All right, last point. Power supply. A lot of time we add things to our computer. Is it possible we could just overload the capability of that power supply?
Very easily, especially if you put in drives that use a lot of power. USB.
Sure, because that's getting its power from the machine.
Yeah, USBs get their power from the machine, and if your machine seems like just sluggish, doesn't want to start,
pull something out of there you don't need.
Pull something you don't need.
Ron, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stuart.
All right, well, if you're having a computer problem but might be hardware, like we just talked about, more likely than not, it is related to your operating system or your applications, your software. And to look at the software side of fixing your PC, our guest expert next is Peter Coffey. Peter is with PC Week magazine and author of this book, Peter Coffey Teaches PCs. So let's talk about the software problems. Let's assume we're in the Windows environment. We know we have a lot of problems if we're living in Windows.
Oh, yeah.
How about the turn off, turn on thing? Would that work if it were a software problem too?
Even more likely for software than for hardware. Either quitting an application and restarting it, or just rebooting the machine.
Two things maybe just bumped into each other.
There's no way to reproduce the exact sequence of things that you've done, and very often a restart is your best friend.
Now, let me ask you about that. One of the issues is we hear that Windows is a 32-bit operating system.
Right.
But the fact is that sometimes isn't clearly the case, is it?
That's correct.
And what can that lead to?
Yeah, there's a lot of good things you get from 32-bit. You get things running in separate memory spaces so they can't step on each other. But a lot of the internals of Windows are still 16-bit code. Or you might have some old device drivers that are 16-bit, or old applications that are 16-bit.
So what do you do about that?
Best thing you can do is to talk to the vendor, talk to the maker of a peripheral device, ask if an updated Windows 95 or 98 driver is available that's 32-bit, and then you'll get the...
And how do we know that? I mean, I see you have something up on the screen here.
Exactly. This is your system information screen that's available to you, and you can go right in here and find out what your drivers are, what 16-bit modules you have in there. Of course, a lot of them are really important things that are part of Windows itself. This is going to go away in the next version of Windows, which is more of an NT kind of operating system. It's all 32-bit.
So one of the problems might be 32-bit things bumping into 16-bit things.
If you only run one 16-bit thing at a time, that's a lot better. If you've got two old applications, it's a good idea not to try to run them at the same time.
Okay. Another problem we typically have is somehow I can't find a file. I know it's there, and I try to open it, and I can't open it.
Right.
What is the problem?
Windows tries to be more like the Macintosh, which has been like this since 1984, and pretend that it can tell what type of file something is, and it puts the right icon on it, you open it, and it knows what application to open it. Under the hood, Windows is still using the old mechanism of file name extensions. For example, an RTF file, a rich text file, a TXT for a text file, a DOC for a word processing document. It tries to pretend that this doesn't matter. It does. Now, you'll notice down here, I've got a place where I'm trying to save a map off of the MapQuest site, and it's trying to save it with an extension of .0.
Windows just doesn't know what that is.
Hasn't a clue. If I try to open that graphic with any of my graphics editors, it won't even show me that file because it doesn't recognize .0 as being like .gif or .jpg or any of these standard graphics types.
And what's the solution to that problem? Is there
you're going to have to get in there and change the extension, but normally Windows won't let you do that because it's not even showing you the extension. But if you go in here to your folder options screen, back here in View, and buried way down here in the advanced settings, it's this little one here, hide file extensions for known file types. If you uncheck that, all of a sudden, all that stuff becomes available, and you can change it with the ordinary rename command.
All right, let's go past the OS now and talk about some of the applications. Word, Microsoft Word, for example. Sometimes you just cannot do what you want to do inside Word, and it's because Word is simply trying to do something you don't want it to do, isn't that right?
They've tried to make it anticipate the things that users want to do, and sometimes they anticipate wrongly. For example, if I've got an ordinary text editing task, I've got quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I want to just change a word. I start dragging here at the ING.
So you want to select the text you want to get rid of.
I'm dragging forward, and everything looks fine. Here in this middle shot, you see I've already got the end of the word.
And the darn thing grabs more than you want to grab.
Yeah, I touch the next word, and it jumps back to the beginning.
How do you stop it from doing that? Can you stop it?
You can. A lot of people think the only way you get around that is not using your mouse to edit. Well, that's not what you want.
Okay, so where is that?
You go back down here under Tools Options, and over here on the Edit tab, there's one right here. When selecting, automatically select entire word.
So you can say
uncheck
just stop doing that when you go into options.
If you don't like it, it's probably changeable, but it's not obvious. It's not on a menu, and a lot of people think if it's not on a menu, you can't get at it. Yeah.
All right, Peter, everybody's talking about Y2K and year 2000 kinds of problems, and we're assured that, hey, don't worry if you have a new operating system, new application, not to worry. But that's not the case either, is it? You might have a Y2K problem.
Very mixed situation, yeah. If I go into a product like Access, for example, and I ask it to use one of its wizards to generate a task list for me, I'll get a date field. Now, under the hood, Access is perfectly able to handle dates past the year 2000. But
it says 1719.
Yeah, and I'm trying to type in the rest of the year.
And you want to be 2019,
it's just
but it won't
at
let you do that.
Exactly. It puts up a mask that only lets you enter 2 digits for the year, because that's the way people used to do it. You're going to have to know that that's a changeable thing. Same kind of thing can happen in Excel. You just make yourself a year, a month, and a day column instead of using the built-in date data type. You're vitiating all the things that Excel has tried to do.
So you got to be careful with those problems.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. All right, well, for many computer users, the mere thought of opening up your PC and probing around inside is a kind of scary idea. The instinct is to just run down to the computer store, say, hey, you guys fix it. Well, how do they diagnose and fix your problem? To find out, we visited the service department at the CompUSA in San Francisco.
At this CompUSA store, the hardware is arranged in attractive displays and the screens sparkle with the latest games and graphics. Even the lowliest software looks inviting, shrink-wrapped in colorful boxes. But as any computer owner with experience knows, the joy of computing is tempered by the threat of something, anything that could go wrong. So what do you do after you've checked the cables and connections?
My first recommendation to any customer would be to back up important documents, important files. No matter how you do that, be it on floppy diskette or a zip drive or anything like that. Back up what you need, because in the event that your system does go down, the easiest way to rectify it if you're not computer savvy is to restore it from the manufacturer's CD. CompUSA has a call center, a technical call center for customers who've purchased their products. They will try and troubleshoot over the phone with the customer and try to understand from the customer's standpoint whether it's something that the customer can just fix by, deleting a couple of files, or they will refer them back to a CompUSA service center if it does turn out to be a hardware problem.
The service department here solves all kinds of puzzles, but most are due to hardware, not software problems. Still, a good diagnosis is the key to a quick repair.
Well, the first thing we do when we check in the machine, we want to make sure from the customer that we get a clear picture of what's really happening. One diagnosis, a diagnosis can't normally be done right at that time, because unless you can duplicate what the machine is doing wrong, you're really going to have to spend a little time on it. So normally the machine has to be checked in to be checked out.
For many users, a misbehaving PC is also their only PC, so it's important for the store to reassure the customer.
We have to put the customer at ease, and above all, we have to communicate with them what is going on there with their machine frequently. Probably the biggest issue that we do run into is if a customer feels they haven't been communicated with enough.
The boom in PC ownership is a boon to PC makers, but the result is a growing number of novice users who might bite off more than they can chew.
Typically, the worst cases where it's going to be difficult is where, say, a consumer has purchased a computer and is not very computer savvy and decides to experiment with, say, the Windows registry. Gets into areas of the computer that really wasn't designed for, the consumer to get into. That can be difficult.
Well, I'd say the most frequent ones that we see are usually people with a lack of expertise trying to install upgrades, for example. Maybe it's a sound card or maybe a video card, whatever it might be. And they don't really have the expertise to do that, or they've run into some conflict and they can't resolve it themselves.
Of course, the other players involved are the manufacturers and the vendors, and retailers readily admit there's room for progress.
Telephone support has not been the best from a lot of computer manufacturers. That's why CompUSA, introduced its call center to help our customers, in the event that something does go wrong, that they do have someone to call and get the phone answered quickly. A lot of manufacturers don't provide that support.
Ultimately, computer owners must manage however they can when their machines let them down, and that's where a little knowledge goes a long way.
Most important really is they need to have some type of training. We offer training at CompUSA. All of our facilities have training facilities. We have intro classes. Really, whether you take training from us or elsewhere, it's a good investment. You're going to make probably your third largest purchase besides your house and your car, and you certainly would not go drive your car without having a driver's license and instruction, let's hope. So you should have some instruction in the computer.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Sarah O'Brien.
There are software programs you can buy that can help you diagnose and even fix many computer problems. Next, we'll take a look at some of the options out there, and our guide to Fix-It Software is John Ruley, Senior Technology Editor with Windows Magazine. John, there's a couple of ones I want you to show us. We've got the Norton Utilities up there first. Peter Norton Utilities been around forever, way back in the DOS days. What are the typical kinds of problems I could solve with the Norton Utilities?
Norton Utilities will let you diagnose a pretty wide range of problems, starting with problems with Windows itself.
Windows problems itself,
unused fonts, components left over from old applications. Crash Guard, which will try to save an application that hangs up. Disk Doctor, which will look for and find and fix problems, physical problems with the hard disk. Unerase, which will let you get back a file when you've saved that same oops we've all said when we, 1 second after deleting something we didn't want to get rid of, and a file comparison utility.
Let me ask you about the Disk Doctor first of all. That's a common problem. Of course, the hard disk is the most fragile thing inside the computer.
It's the only real moving part in a computer that has the platter.
So it's going to wear out in some way.
Absolutely.
And the symptom might be, I'm looking for a file, and I know I saved it, and I know it ought to be there, but I can't open up that file.
That's right.
What do I do with Disk Doctor to solve that problem?
Well, given that you remember where you put the file, at least approximately, you know which disk or partition, it's in the C drive. So on this list, pick the C drive, click Diagnose, and Norton will carry out a series of steps, checking through the partition table, boot record, file structures, and so forth, tell you whether there's a problem.
So maybe that particular file just ended up on that bad part of the disk, and that's why I can't access it.
Exactly. In that case, you know, first of all, you may be able to recover part of the data, or part may be gone. But what you can definitely do is mark the bad part of the disk
so we don't do the same
never
thing again.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
All right, now I want to ask you about the oops problem you mentioned. And we've all been through that situation. You put something in the recycle bin. Oh, I'll empty the recycle bin to save some hard drive space. And they say, oh, I needed that file. Can you still get that file back?
Maybe.
Maybe. All right.
Hopefully. What you can do is you can find recently deleted files.
So this is the unerase feature.
This is the unerase feature. It's going to check, and we rather quickly come up with a long list of files that have been deleted.
They're theoretically deleted, but they're still accessible if I want to go back and resurrect them.
Really, when you delete a file on a computer, what happens initially, it doesn't get deleted. It just gets marked to say, you know, this is no longer useful space.
The address,
Now, if you just deleted it, yes, you can get it back. If I deleted something and then immediately came up with this,
maybe if it was a week or 2 weeks ago, that...
Well, what happens is that Windows will use empty space on the disk as long as there is empty space to use. When it runs out of empty space on the disk, then it will start recycling.
And maybe the file's gone
then the file's gone.
The quicker you realize the mistake, the better.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to another application. That's Norton Utilities. There's another one out there called Nuts and Bolts, which looks kind of user-friendly. What would be the differences?
Well, Nuts and Bolts is basically the same sorts of things, but it's a little simpler and easier to use for someone who's not really heavily computer
But basically
person.
does the same kinds of things?
Same kinds of things. A disk minder that does the same sorts of things as Norton Disk Doctor. It has a backup and restore, create a rescue disk so that you can boot off of a floppy.
PC checkup is again just sort of a general look at your whole machine and see where you might potentially have problems?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, now, suppose I wanted to deal with a hard disk problem like you showed me with Disk Doctor and Norton Utilities. How would I do that in Nuts and Bolts? Same sort of hard disk problem. I can't find a file.
You'd wind up using the disk minder.
That same idea as Disk Doctor.
Same thing as Disk Doctor. And again, you pick the partition and just tell it to start, and it'll go off and start checking.
All right, before I finish with you, I want to ask you about Windows NT, because I know you're an NT expert. Different set of problems in NT, right? Because theoretically, this is a secure operating system in which Windows essentially prevents you from getting inside and doing these same kinds of things, right?
Well, It's actually the same kinds of problems, but the applications have to be written differently for exactly the reason you said, because the operating system does not want to have an application touching the disk controller directly. Right. So you wind up with familiar kinds of applications, but maybe not from the
So you need special NT utility software.
That's correct.
And this is one called Disk Keeper?
Yes, indeed. This is Disk Keeper.
Defragging, I take it, by looking at the screen?
Absolutely.
And you could do the unerase and the delete, same kind of thing?
Very much the same kind of thing. Here's Executive Software Undelete, which does exactly the same thing as the Utilities Unerase. Yes, you have to have the rights over the file. You have to have been the one who created the file or be an administrator who can subsume those rights. But yeah, the data's still there.
Don, thanks a lot. All right, well, if you run into a problem with your computer and you check the manual, odds are it'll say, log on to our website for help. Well, there are lots of online resources to help you deal with a computer problem. And to look at some of those, we'll get the help of another senior technology editor for Windows Magazine, Owen Linderholm. Welcome, Owen. All right, let's talk about a couple of different situations. We haven't talked about viruses yet. And a lot of times something weird happens on your computer. You see weird things on the screen, files don't act right, and you suspect maybe I've somehow gotten a virus into my system. How would I deal with that problem by going online and trying to solve it?
Well, if you don't already have virus software, you don't know if it's a virus.
Assuming I don't have that,
then you might want to go to a site like PCGuide.com, where it's a huge encyclopedia, all kinds of information about your PC, and you can step down into it and find out all kinds of things. In this case, we're trying to find out, do we have a virus? What exactly would a virus look like? And what would we do about it if we do have a virus? Down inside the depths of the encyclopedia is a huge ream of information.
So this is just a big online reference book, basically, in which I can get answers to questions.
Right. And you can find out all kinds of things. Right here is virus detection and prevention. And if you go in there, that tells you what common viruses
Not necessarily
look
going to solve the problem, but help me to diagnose the problem.
And tell you maybe what the kinds of things you ought to do next.
Let me raise another problem. This isn't quite sort of something breaks, but it's like that. You know, we all run out of hard drive space. And then the solution is, well, maybe I'll just get a second hard drive and install it. So I go out and buy the second hard drive. I come home, and the instructions are not real clear, and I'm afraid I'm going to blow up my whole machine by plugging things in the wrong way. Can I get a solution to that kind of problem by going online?
Right, same kind of thing at the PC Guide.
So even PC Guide would help me there.
Right, they have a section called Procedures where they have detailed instructions for all kinds of things. For example, you get a new hard drive, you don't know what to do with it. There are kinds of pieces, little rods, screws, where do they go, how does it plug into this, and what cables need to go in. They have a long, detailed explanation of what everything is, what tools you'll need. You're going to need a screwdriver, for example.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
How long it ought to take, whether you need to use the special mounting hardware or not, everything else you might need to do.
All right, so PCGuide.com, good general resource for solving problems. Now, let's talk about the McAfee site, because we talked about Peter Norton before. A lot of people have heard about McAfee and their utilities. What would I find on their site?
Well, one of the things McAfee's known for is going back to our virus problem. Let's say we discovered we had a virus. McAfee, along with selling you all kinds of software of their own, has some free areas online where you can perform some of these utility
So you can
functions
actually download for free some of the McAfee utilities to actually try to solve a virus problem.
Right. They have this section here called PC Clinic. You have to sign up. Once you're registered, you can go online, and they have a section called Virus Scan Online. Takes a while to download and get everything set up, but once you can actually run a virus scan on your system while you're online, and it will check that for you. They have other utilities available. They can clean up temporary files, clean out your hard drive of all kinds of junk that might be there, and also a help and tips section similar to some of the help that's available at PC Guide.
All right, so there's PCGuide.com, maybe try McAfee.com. Right. There's another one that's pretty useful called OilChange.com. Right. What is that?
Okay. OilChange is a product that helps find when your system has outdated and old files. Let's say you have a Windows 95 and you've got a USB scanner and you don't know what to do with it. You have this USB device, you plug it in, it doesn't work. What's wrong?
All right, so Win95 is not theoretically supporting USB, but there's a way to go in there and fix that problem.
Right, there's a special update to Windows 95 you can download. It's hidden away on
Now I could find something like that on the OilChange site?
Well, OilChange is one of many products this company sells. On their website, you can try the software out.
Okay, so once again, they're trying to sell me the software, but they're downloadable demos, which I could actually use to solve a problem.
And right here is Windows 95 as one of the things you can try out for free. So you could go in there, run OilChange, try out the trial version, and it would say you would need Windows 95 Service Release 2.1. Here's how you download it. Go get it started for you, and you should be up and running with the USB scanner in no time.
What would you do first? I mean, kind of to sum up here on, I mean, you have a problem, you don't know where to go. We've looked at lots of solutions. You go online, do you go to the vendor's website first? What's the best thing to do?
I would probably go somewhere like the PC Guide site or maybe some of the big magazine sites. Look through them, find out what their suggestions are. For the example is the virus problem. Find out, is this really a virus or is this buggy software that's just crashing? Once you've sorted out that is a virus, you can go and get hold of good virus scanning software.
So maybe start on the web and then figure out what to buy after that. Owen, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's our look at how to fix your PC. I'll be back in just a moment with my pick of the week. Now for my pick of the week. Everyone, it seems, is getting into e-commerce, selling stuff on the web. It just seems natural. Your virtual store can be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your overhead is low, and your reach is global. But what does it take to set up an online business? How do you create the site, make a deal with a web host, set up the credit card arrangements, and create a user-friendly customer interface? These have all been separate, complicated tasks in the past. But now there is a new piece of software out that literally does it all for you in less than a day. It's a great package for any would-be internet entrepreneur, and this is it. It's called QuickSite from Primecom Interactive. Here's how it works. You run a tutorial which prompts you to define your e-business goals. You then pick a site design for your virtual storefront from a library of over 350 templates. You then log on to primecom.net, their website, and you open a hosting account and you open a merchant account. Then you configure your online store, you add the products, you can create an optional market basket system so it's easy for your customers to select items for purchase. Then you upload the finished site to your new server host and you're on live. You are in business. Orders are actually automatically processed and they're sent to you via email. This does take a little bit of time. It is a somewhat complex process, but the software comes with excellent help and a built-in video tutorial. And what's nice is the software and the website really offer you one-stop shopping for all the elements you need to set up your store. The software, again, is called QuickSite, and it sells for about $90. The full e-commerce hosting service costs about $50 a month. And that's it for this edition of Chronicles. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here again next week with more of the latest in hardware, software, and the internet. I hope we'll see you here next time.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.
Next week on the Computer Chronicles, speech technology. We'll show you the newest speech recognition hardware that lets you use a computer without a keyboard. You'll see the latest in mobile speech technology, a digital recorder that can turn your dictation into text files, and computers that can understand speech well enough to train you in a foreign language. Plus Weebly, a voice-activated virtual assistant that can possibly replace your secretary. It's all coming up next week on the Computer Chronicles.